This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Well, you sort of feel like you saw this one coming, right? We were talking about this presumptively for weeks, but officially 8.5 hours before we're talking to you live here from our Real Talk studio in the Mercer warehouse in downtown Edmonton. Alberta's teachers officially went on strike, 51,000 of them. I was one of thousands of Alberta parents who got a call yesterday on my phone, an automated message letting me know, do not send your child to class tomorrow. And so for a lot of you, this may be the first time in a long time that you're watching Real Talk live because your schedule's changed a little bit. The kids are at home and teachers are not in the classroom. This after weeks or months, or some may argue years of a contentious relationship between Alberta's government and Alberta's teachers. The question now, how long could this strike last? In our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, the president of the Alberta Teachers Association, Jason Schilling, joining us in studio. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sounds to me like your Sunday, yesterday, for folks that are listening to this, the day we're doing the episode was a busy one as thousands and thousands of Albertans turned out in Edmonton at the Alberta Legislature, in Calgary at the McDougall Centre, and in other cities and towns across the province. Where's your head at right now?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was a huge show of support for teachers in public education across this province. There was 20,000 members or people in Edmonton. There was thousands in Calgary. We had rallies and demonstrations in Lethbridge, Red Deer, and Grand Prairie, where thousands of other people came out to show their support. And it sends a strong message, I think, to government that people care about public education. They care about what's happening in our schools, and they want to see government do better when it comes to investing in our future.
Was this strike inevitable, or were you holding out hope until the 11th hour last night that maybe a deal would be struck, that maybe kids would be back in the classroom today?
No, I think it was inevitable. You saw the members turn down a memorandum of agreement last Monday at 90%. And then you heard government say, well, we're confused about what teachers want. Well, that's not confusion. That's clarity. They don't want to see what was on the table as a solution because they need to see more concrete solutions for the issues that they're having in their schools.
Okay, so when it comes down to it, this is about more than just money. That's the sense I'm getting.
Well, money is a part of it. You want a fair wage that's competitive, that keeps up with inflation, makes up for the fact that teachers have seen a 5.75% increase in the last 10 years, and we know that inflation's been close to 30. We want to also retain and attract new teachers into the system, and salary is a part of that. It's also classroom complexities, but it's also about respect as well. This is an issue that I hear from teachers about all the time. They feel deeply disrespected by this government for several years now.
When we talk about the disrespect, I don't want to assume, I don't want to take anything for granted. What has made teachers feel most disrespected over the past number of years?
Well, you can go back to 2019 when government tore up an agreement on curriculum redevelopment. We were partners with government on that process. They tore it up, and then you saw the dud that was landed in 2021 by government, and huge pushback on that curriculum because teachers' voices weren't included in it. We know what will and what won't work in our classrooms. We want to make sure that Indigenous voices are heard through it, Francophone voices, 2S LGBTQ voices as well, and that was absent. And government just barreled ahead with that and implemented curriculum without resources into schools. Disciplinary function was taken away from the association. I think we talked about that as well. And if you fast forward into this year, you saw a summer where book bans were brought into place, where you saw legislation that came into regulation that, pronoun legislation at schools, where teachers were then put in a position where they would have to out students to their families, and they didn't want to be in that position. And then you add on top of that the fairness in sport legislation, where now girls over the age of 12 have to verify their gender, and teachers were responsible for implementing those documents. And it's just a level of disrespect that they felt from government the last several years. And you add a smear campaign in the last couple of weeks, and that doesn't help.
Do you get the sense? I mean, when you use the phrase smear campaign, do you think that the government wanted to push it to this point? Do you think the government wanted to see a strike?
Well, I think government was pushing back on the fact that our least campaign about the fact that we're the least funded school jurisdiction in all of Canada was effective because we're telling the truth. We're seeing the fact in our classrooms of overcrowded classrooms, a lack of resources for our students. You've got teachers who are teaching school in boot rooms, on stages of gyms, in hallways. We're telling the truth about what we're seeing in our schools, and I think government's campaign when the memorandum came out was in reaction to that. The reaction should have been, let's sit down and let's address the funding issues that we're seeing right now so that we're not having 40 some kids in a class, that teachers don't have resources for special needs students, that kids are falling through the cracks right now. And teachers have essentially said, we can't watch kids fall through these cracks faster. We have to do something. And that's why they've taken the bold stance that they have.
I don't want to. I want to be careful in asking you this question. When I ask you if you think that the government wanted this strike to happen, it's fair for me to ask you if you think the teachers wanted this strike to happen. I've seen post after post after post, just even on my own personal social media feed. My sister-in-law is a teacher. Good friends of this show are teachers. I have an email I'm going to read here from a teacher that's not in the classroom today that describes her situation as heartbroken. So I don't get the sense they wanted to strike, but they sure didn't seem afraid to strike. How important was this solidarity to your membership?
Well, I'll back up, and I think there was, I was curious that on Monday we announced our vote results for the memorandum of agreement, and then on Tuesday government announced a fully fledged, thought out plan to pay parents for extra for childcare costs and these terrible resource packages that they had online. So they had a plan in place. So I question the sincerity of some of the government members that I hear saying, well, we want to get back to the table. We don't have a deal. But they were definitely prepared for parents to have resources available to them. And we understand that this is a big inconvenience and a hardship for parents and for students. We feel that. I mean, it is for us as well. And but sometimes when things are hard, you need to stand up.
I suspect that a lot of people don't realize that the teachers aren't receiving strike pay. This is probably a big deal, especially considering, if this strike extends, how long can you see this lasting?
Well, association will cover the health benefits for our members during this time, which is really important. But teachers knew going into for the last several years that strike pay, if a provincial strike happened, we would have locals that were on strike and strike pay would be available at that point. But when everybody's out at one point, that becomes a little bit problematic. But this also tells you the resolve and the commitment of teachers, knowing that they didn't have strike pay, still voted 95% in favor of strike, voted 90% against a memorandum of agreement, because they are committed to making things better for themselves and for their students at school. And that, I think, is a really strong message that people need to resonate with.
I want to get you to comment on some of the offers, including the most recent deal offered to teachers, which was rejected. The province, by way of the finance minister's office, commenting on this, a 12 to 17% raise over 4 years, voted down, as you said, by 89.5% of ATA members. The provincial government's position on it, quote, fair, says the finance minister's office in a statement. We're willing to discuss other terms of the deal, but the government has a responsibility to the taxpayer to negotiate within reason. Statement goes on to say, we welcome the teachers union back to the table, but it's clear union leadership has not best reflected the needs of their membership after agreeing to and putting forward 2 failed deals. Lama's in our live chat today, powered by Park Power, says, so what is the current wage increase demand from the teacher's side? Says, last I heard it was 30%. You talked about 30% inflation. Is that the ask, 30% over 4 years? That's
the initial proposal where it starts at, because you have to think the last time that teachers were ahead of purchasing power, ahead of inflation, was 2010. And so teachers have seen their purchasing power erode since then. We've had stagnant wages for a decade. We've had multiple governments, PC governments in the past, under Alison Redford, under the NDP, saying, we're in financial trouble right now. Teachers, we need you to take a zero, and we'll get you next time. We'll get you next time, and we'll get you next time. And this is the next time. And so we know that teachers are subject to the same inflation as everybody else. They have the same cost of living pressures that everybody else does, mortgages, rent, utilities, insurance. Lord knows none of that stuff has gone down in the province. And so they're just looking to make up for lost inflation and keep pace. The number is somewhere in between what government's asking and what teachers put in their initial proposal. We just have to negotiate where that final number will be.
I want to ask you, we've received a ton of emails. We're going to leave some time to read some of these through the show today for sure. Want Real Talkers to know, as per usual, you will have a voice on this show. Your perspectives will be represented. We've received more emails, generally speaking about the strike, of course, but a ton about private and charter school funding and people specifically taking issue with that. And I want to make sure I ask you about that.
No, I'm glad you did. And I think we've talked about this before. Alberta is the only province in Canada that has charter schools. Charter schools get full funding from the government.
For people that don't know what a charter school is, can you give us a 2-sentence explainer?
I'll try, but it's kind of complicated. We'll do my best. So charter schools were created from some legislation to create sort of a unique experimental way of looking at education that would inform the rest of the public system. At one point, we only had 13 charter schools, and it was limited. And I think under Minister LaGrange, they did changes called the Choice in Education Act, where charter schools are essentially public schools now. They receive full funding. They don't have elected trustees that oversee them, and they can charge fees and turn kids away if they don't fit what the charter school is looking for. Public schools can't do that. Private schools can. They're an outlier in Canada. We spend more taxpayer dollars on private schools at 70% than any other province in the country. They have restrictive policies about who can attend. They have class size caps, which must be nice. And they can charge tuition that is tens of thousands of dollars. So we spend about $12,000 per student here in public schools, but some private schools spend up to $25,000 per student in a year. And that inequity issue is quite a big factor.
So you've got, incredible public support, the visuals, the drone shots, the aerial shots, the on-the-ground shots at the Alberta Legislature are striking. Former Deputy Premier Thomas Lukazik, who I know is in the Teachers' Corner on this one, he was there getting people to sign that Forever Canada petition, but he's described this, and this is a guy who, I believe off the top of my head, was an elected MLA for 14 years, including, as mentioned, Deputy Premier, says, I've seen a lot of rallies at the Alberta Legislature, but Sundays had to be the biggest one. So it obviously sends a message. On the flip side, the province is looking at deficit position. Money's tight for everybody. The nurses settled, as you know, you and I have talked about this before, within the last year for about a third of what your ideal outcome would be. Is the landscape a difficult one to convince Albertans that teachers deserve everything that the ATA or that the union is asking for?
Well, I recognize that, and I know that times are tough for a lot of people, and I hear sometimes people say to me, well, I didn't get a raise last year, so why should teachers get a raise? And my retort to that is, you should be, though. Everybody should be getting a cost of living allowance or a raise in that regard. Everybody should be able to make ends meet with the work that they do. Teachers are saying that, wages is an issue, but so are classroom complexities and class size, especially the complexity issue. And we have seen for at least 10 years, we're the least funded school jurisdiction in all of Canada. And government's created this mess with this chronic underfunding, and now we're dealing with it. It's, the consequences to the policy and budget decisions that government has made has led us to this point. And teachers and parents and the thousands upon thousands of people, and thank you to everybody who showed up with those fantastic signs that were out there, have said enough is enough. We need to invest in public education. These are the kids who are the future of this province, and we're shortchanging them.
I asked my buddy Chris Andreychuk if I could, Johnny, can you go back that one photo? I asked him, this was off his personal Instagram, so I asked if I could show the photos of his kids at the rally. He said, my kids are taking this one personally, he said, because their mom's a teacher. But this is his young son. As you can see, the foam microphone and the sign, you can't turn my microphone off. I thought that was one of the good ones. Chris said that his son came up with that one on his own. We've got Tracy here in our live chat, powered by Park Power, says, I rarely hear public sector workers talk about financial issues. It's more often about how they can't provide quality programming. I would imagine teachers are taking this one pretty personally too. Strikes aren't always personal, but this one feels like it is.
Well, you've got people, my colleagues, when I talk to them, they're burning out. they're at the end of their rope with a lot of things because they have classes that are growing, needs of the students that are coming into class. So you will have multiples of students who are not reading at classroom level or not at grade level. You will have some who English is new to them, and so they might not speak English at all. We have special needs students that are in our classrooms that need one-on-one educational assistance, but they don't have them. When my last year of teaching before I started this role, I had an education assistant who worked with me, but she was also assigned to 2 other classes, the math and science class at the same time. And she had to divide her time on where she was needed most. We shouldn't be putting kids and teachers in these situations. We shouldn't be shortchanging everything. People shouldn't have to balance out where we can have the help for some so that the others don't get it as well. And it is personal for teachers because they put their heart and soul into their work. They became teachers because they want to make a difference. And now they're navigating the classrooms that are complex without resources and all of these other policies that have been added on top, like a book ban. And now you got to sort your books out and you have to do all these other things, curriculum without resources. They're dealing with a lot of things on their plates, and they're asking for help. And they feel like the government is just not listening.
Jason Schilling, our guest, president, Alberta Teachers Association, in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Pat's watching us live, says the Premier needs to tell all teachers to go back to work, and if they don't, fire them all, strip their pensions, fire the union, and start over with those that will. Our Alberta government millionaires able to hand things out. Alberta will soon be independent, says Pat, who I think that Pat's views may not align with yours. But what's worst case scenario here? There are risks, of course, if this strike extends beyond a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Take us into what you're thinking on that.
Well, yeah, there's risk in all of it, right? And teachers weighed those out before they cast their votes, and you saw the results of the votes, and so they've really considered this. Teachers will lose salary, students will lose valuable learning time, but I know that they're standing up for what they believe in, and I know that it's important to send that signal, and I know that teachers are resolved and committed into trying to find a solution. We'd like to find a negotiate solution that would be ideal, but they're ready to stay out for as long as it takes to make sure that we get things better.
I don't know the rules. Can Alberta's teachers be ordered back to work?
Yeah, both sides have levers. The government has levers and what they can use in terms of that. And when I was on strike in 2002, we were ordered back and we went back to work. We also took the government to court on that and won, but teachers stayed in school because they recognized the importance of that while we worked out the deal. But yeah, government has the power to legislate people back.
Was 2002 the last? Was that maybe not technically a province-wide strike, right? But essentially.
So we had a strike in Parkland, local, which is just west of the city. It's Spruce Grove, Stony Plain area in 2007. But in 2002, we had a coordinated strike. We didn't have central table bargaining like we do right now. It was local by local, so we coordinated it. About 20,000 teachers were out at that time. Right now, with 51,000 teachers out, this is the largest job action in Alberta history. And it was teachers who took this forward to take this stand. And like I said, I was out in 2002. We were out for 13 days. It wasn't easy by any means, and it was difficult because we knew the impacts that it was having. But we also knew, ironically, we were talking about the same things, wages and classroom conditions. And that tells you that governments past have not done what they needed to do in order to address those issues.
What would have been, I mean, aside from the sort of the technical nature of the negotiations, what did 2002 have in common with now, and what were the key differences? Maybe in regards maybe to the temperature of the relationship, to the sense of hostility, et cetera.
Well, I mean, we're talking early in my career as well. I was only 6 years into my teaching career.
What do you remember about it?
Well, I just remember we were talking about wages, and the government had put forward some wages for other public sectors, but said to teachers, you don't get that. And so that was one of the contentions right there. But also it was classroom conditions. We were seeing classrooms grow at that time. And we were seeing, an erosion of the supports that are available in there. I remember early in my career, being at school till 11:30 at night, to the point where the custodians would joke and be like, do you actually live in the building? Because we think you're here early in the morning and you're late at night. And, trying to make sure that you had everything that you needed to get students, so that they could be successful the next day at school, getting things ready. And so classroom conditions were an issue, and that's where you got the Alberta Commission of Learning. So they put together this panel, and they toured around the province, and they put this report together, but then they didn't act on the majority of the recommendations that were in there, which one of them was a student-teacher ratio. So kindergarten, 17-1, 4-6, it would be 20-1. Junior high, 23-1, high school, 27-1. That has been around for 23 years, and government has yet to act on that.
Cliff in our live chat says teachers deserve to make a solid living. That said, they're essentially in Alberta the highest paid teachers in Canada, except for the Northwest Territories. Is that accurate?
It's not. So when you look at what government has been saying about, well, for the end of this deal, if it was accepted, teachers would be the highest paid in Western Canada. But the projections that they have with the information that they put out are till 2027 for BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. None of those provinces have settled their contracts for 2027. So I'm a bit mystified where the numbers are coming from. BC, their collective agreement just expired in June of 2025. I don't know if they've started bargaining or not. But Saskatchewan and Manitoba have yet to start bargaining for 2027. So it's a little bit of a shot in the dark to say that teachers would be the highest paid at the end of this, because we don't know what the numbers would be for the other provinces.
Huh. So, I've seen, we get a lot of comments, a lot of engagement on our YouTube episodes, on our social media posts, and I've seen a lot of people suggesting, I'll paraphrase the comment, which is that, from the government side, this has very little to do with the minutiae or the details of this contract, and more to do, so say the commenters, with the government's desire to cut off public education at the knees, to diminish the quality of public education in order to justify the existence of, or the success of, private and charter schools. Some might call it a conspiracy theory. Some might say it's happening right before our very eyes and it's very real. What do you think?
Well, I think you see that in education. I think you see it in healthcare as well, that you starve the system, then you say the system is broken, and then you bring in private enterprises to fix the system. We saw it in the States. It didn't work. It was the No Child Left Behind initiative. And so we see some concerns with that. You have Budget 2025 is a good example. In order for us to be at the Canadian average in terms of expenditures per student in this country, we would have had to have seen a budget increase of 13.5% to get the public system just to the Canadian average. 4.54% was what the budget had for public education. Private education, however, saw an increase of 13.5%, and we'll see an increase over 30% by the end of fiscal year 2027. So it's about priorities. 93% of students go to public schools. It's not an option for parents in many communities to go to a private school, nor could they afford it. Public schools need to be fortified. They need to be funded accordingly so that everybody is successful.
So parents, I think, will probably want to know, Albertans will want to know that at least conversations are going to continue, negotiations will continue in good faith. Is that your intention? Is that the ATA's intention? When is the next round of talks scheduled for? What do the next couple of weeks look like as far as you can tell at this point? I'm sure there's some uncertainty.
Well, there's a little bit of uncertainty, but we have engaged in conversations with government starting last week. We're calling them exploratory conversations, and it's basically sitting down. It's not uncommon in the bargaining process to have exploratory conversations to talk about issues of why did the last memorandum fail, what are we hearing from our members, and hopefully start getting into more formal bargaining talks and trying to find our way to a deal. What's
your message to parents right now?
I know that this is hard on you. This is hard for students. This is hard for teachers. It's difficult, period. But teachers need your support. And I think we've seen a lot of that from parents, because parents also see the same things that teachers are seeing in their schools. They see the fact that their kids are coming to school and they don't have a desk. They don't have the supports. They don't have the programming or the resources for their kids to be successful. Teachers want to be in school working with students, and I think parents want their kids there as well. So my message to parents is you have a lot of power in this conversation. You have a loud voice that you need to use to speak to MLAs, the minister and the premier, about what you're seeing and what you expect in terms of public education in the province. So, really short, if you want to get catchphrasy, get loud and stay loud. That's what parents need to do to support education, their teachers, and ultimately their kids.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of red T-shirts hung on fences outside schools, this whole Red for Ed movement. Comment in our live chat has me intrigued. Did a senior representative of your bargaining team resign after the most recent meeting?
We had some resignations on our committee, for the last year or so. Some people are, when being on the committee, you have to be a member of Provincial Executive Council, and so that we've seen that happen.
Okay, but is there more to that? Is there a sense of hopelessness or frustration, or maybe not? There's not an alignment of values or priorities?
No, I just think that it's a conversation that it's not necessarily for public consumption, but people work really hard on those committees. It's a big time commitment for people to do this, and I know that it happens.
Are you hearing from colleagues in other provinces, other jurisdictions?
I've heard from people from across Canada. Just yesterday at the protests, the rallies that we saw, Clint Johnson, who's the president of the Canadian Teachers Federation, was with me in Edmonton and Calgary. He came out for that. I hear from my counterparts across Canada, from other unions from across Canada, other unions within Alberta, AUPE, QP, the nurses, the university faculty associations, the unions there are all very supportive about this because they recognize that a lot of the concerns that you see in public education are in other public sectors as well. And even from some private unions across the provinces. Well, I've heard from them as well.
I heard Evan Lee, who almost became a household name over the past couple of weeks after his mic was cut off at that Alberta Next town hall in Calgary. I heard that he was at the Calgary rally yesterday, which was World Teachers Day, by the way. I should mention that. Kind of a remarkable situation there with Evan, isn't it? I recognize that, elementary school kids, this is tough for them. They're not in school. It's tough for parents that have to figure out childcare arrangements and the like. I recognize that probably every age demographic has its own challenges when their teachers are striking and they're not at school. This has got to be particularly stressful for high school students, in particular grade 12 students that are, of course, counting down the months until the next step in their life, whatever that may be.
Yeah, and I think that you saw Evan speak yesterday, very articulate, very well-spoken. His speech was really great. It talked about the importance of supporting teachers from a student perspective, that students need teachers with their knowledge to help them achieve their goals that they want to see. And having taught grade 12, I know that I've received even emails from students who are concerned about diploma exams. We know within the curriculum things that are essential that kids need to know, and teachers are professional and will catch them up on the things that they need to know to ensure that they're successful.
Is Evan involved in the Alberta Teachers Association in any official capacity?
No, I think the first time I saw and heard of Evan was when dozens upon dozens of people sent me the clip from the Alberta panel where his microphone was cut off. And I've taught kids in high school for many years, and they are interested in the world around them. They are interested in politics. They're interested in all sorts of things, and they have opinions, and you need to listen to them, right? And part of my job as an English teacher was to ensure that they could write in a way that their thoughts were clear and that they could articulate their thoughts. And here you get the epitome of this in a student who is brave enough to stand in front of the premier of the province to ask a question, and to be treated in that manner was deplorable. And it's hugely ironic because Bruce McAllister used to be the education critic when he was in the Wild Rose Party. And there's some clips out there of him talking about the fact that we need to listen to teachers about what they're seeing in their classrooms. And here we are with government not listening to teachers about what they need in their classrooms, when that was the rhetoric just several years ago.
Do you acknowledge that some of the sticking points or some of the points of contention will not find resolution? Like, do you acknowledge that there's some ideology at play in how the government is managing the education file right now that, for all intents and purposes, is inflexible and not up for negotiation?
Well, and there's a lot of things that get conflated into negotiations. And so I hear government talk a lot about, we're spending $8.6 billion on school. Well, that should have nothing to do with our contract. And they've conflated that in terms of investment in education. Yeah, we need more spaces, but you weren't building schools to begin with. That's the problem. I also will hear other things that will get conflated into bargaining and, hiring of teachers. Well, government should be hiring teachers and EAs. That is literally their job, is to provide the resources for public education. So, there's some things that will never be resolved in ideology, and we'll do the best that we can to navigate around that, to find a compromise. But there's other things that we need to see government move on.
Finally, I just want to ask, I've asked you for your message to government, and I've asked you for your message to parents. What's your message to the kids? Yeah,
I just, having taught for so many years, over 2 decades, I know that this is hard for kids. I know that some kids out there, school's their safest space, right? And that's heartbreaking that they can't be at school right now. We know that a lot of kids have food insecurities, and they're getting their meals at school. It also tells me that school is doing a lot more for kids these days without the resources available to do that. So, kids also have a voice in this as well. So I would say to kids, write your MLA, email them, phone them, go talk to them, join other demonstrations, because their voice is often one that is absent through this conversation, because they're kids and people don't think to ask them. But I think ask them, get involved. Same with your parents. Get loud and stay loud.
Jason Schilling is the president of the Alberta Teachers Association. Thanks for making Real Talk your first interview this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Real Talkers, we're going to get to your emails, your messages in our live chat and more as this conversation will continue. Of course, you can hit us up anytime to talk@ryanjespersen.com.
Edmonton is here because the river is here. So we care for it, protect it, share it. The water of the North Saskatchewan sustains all of us. It's a big job to treat and deliver it, river to tap, to over 1 million people, so you can have and enjoy a glass of the Sask. On tap, made local by Epcor.
More of your comments coming up, plus Supriya Dwivedi will let us know what she thinks about this Alberta teachers strike and other news around the world in just a moment. Supriya with us every single Monday, and that's in part due to the support of our friends at Friesen Brothers. They've got their Thanksgiving dinner box ready to rock right now. Check out this image for those of you that are watching us on the social media platforms, watching us on YouTube. Johnny, we had a visit from our friends at Friesen Brothers on Friday.
Yeah.
They gave us an early delivery of this Thanksgiving dinner box.
I gotta say, let me just say before we talk about the delicious dinners we had.
Yeah.
How good are we looking at this photo?
I mean, the lighting is on point.
And we're tired. This is Friday, God.
We were lucky enough to have Carly Watson, our favorite photographer, in studio shooting our Real Talk Edmonton mayoral debate. So the timing worked out great.
She touched us up a bit.
She touched us up a tiny little bit. But what I loved what Friesen Brothers did, and I want to send this message to Real Talkers as well. Of course, these Thanksgiving dinner boxes, you can order them online at cateringbyfriesen.com. You put them in your oven, you heat them up, they're ready to rock. They'll do all the work so you can spend all the quality time with your family. But they gave me the one that they knew that I wanted, which was meat.
Banger.
And then they gave you a plant-based or a vegan Thanksgiving dinner box. How good was that?
So I'm telling you, I opened this thing up and I thought I didn't know what was going to be inside. But apparently, and this must be new, they are doing full-on vegan turkey.
How great is that?
This stuff was... I don't know how they do it when you break it apart. It's all stringy like turkey. It tastes like turkey. Me and my partner were super impressed. We had some incredible carrots in there. It was basically the same box as you, minus they have this incredible sauce on your carrots, which obviously had cream.
Yeah, the creamy dill carrots.
Oh my gosh! And the pierogies, the bacon bits, the chives, the sour cream, the pumpkin pie, the peach pie.
So good.
I imagine these boxes. I don't want to make this too long because we're in the middle of ads, but I imagine these things being like little to-go boxes.
Yeah.
When it got here, I was like, this feeds like six people.
It's massive.
It's insane.
And you know what's great? I love this. You estimate it's done for 6. You know what they say? They say it's for 4. And you know what it works out? And it's $79 for 4 people.
That's $80?
Yes!
Yes! That will
blows my mind.
That will feed at least 6 people.
I don't know how...
It's a lot.
I don't know how you can spend $80 on Thanksgiving dinner ingredients, do
There's
all
no
the work
way.
yourself
There's
and
no
make
way.
any.
There's
It
no
makes
way. You got
check
the
out
buns, everything.
cateringbyfriesen.com. Do we sound just a little bit enthusiastic about this? By the way, it's already all gone. My family just absolutely crushed it. We loved it. Cateringbyfriesen.com. Order online, pick up at your convenience. Learn more again at cateringbyfriesen.com. It is a huge year for our friends at the Royal Alexandra Hospital, affectionately known as the Royal Alex, or for some of you, I'll acknowledge the Royal Alec. This hospital, Edmonton's hospital in the inner city, right downtown, one of the busiest hospitals in Canada, celebrating 125 years, but it's so much more than just a building. It's a place where moments of care echo through generations, touching families, shaping communities, inspiring the care of tomorrow. These are the echoes of the Alex. And with your gift today, those echoes will continue carrying forward hope, healing, and compassion for generations yet to come. You can show your support today at givetoroyalalex.org. Excited to let you know that on the next episode of Real Talk, we will debut a new weekly feature, Echoes of the Alex. We're going to be sharing with you small vignettes, small stories of how the Royal Alexandra Hospital has, quite frankly, saved, transformed lives for more than a century, 125 years. Again, givetoroyalalex.org. And we also want to make sure that you are aware, Real Talkers, that just because you may have missed the boat, or so you thought, on university registration, post-secondary registration, you want to pursue that goal, you want to maybe chase that undergraduate degree you've always dreamed of, or maybe go get that MBA, but you missed the beginning of September. Well, at any other university, that'd be a big deal. At Athabasca University, no big deal. That's Canada's Open University with online degrees and courses, world-class accredited online degrees and courses designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. That means you can kick off your studies 12 months a year. It means you can press pause. It means you can fast forward, and your only commute is to your device. Learn more about the applications and admissions process, student supports, including financial aid, and the AU Advantage by visiting athabascau.ca. Live chat powered by Park Power. Mariah says, it's embarrassing. We're a wealthy province. We have the lowest investment in schools per kid in the country. Teachers deserve a proper raise. The rate of inflation is not acceptable. Their job is too important. David T. asking a very fair question. How are these working conditions supposed to attract new teachers? Says we need an influx of teachers, but I don't see a big line to get into underfunded classrooms, and all I see is disrespect for the government. I mentioned my sister-in-law. I don't know if she wants me using her name on the show. I'll say her name's Tammy. How about that? And she's a teacher just outside Calgary, and a passionate one at that. She posted yesterday, "Dear Alberta students, even as we hold back tears, even as we shut off the lights and close the door, even as your desk sits empty, your lessons continue. Mental health matters. Belonging and safety matter. Literacy and numeracy matter. Science and facts matter. Public education matters. The truth matters. Human rights are worth fighting for. You are worth fighting for. Hope is a verb." She says, "We make sacrifices for the greater good. We stand up to bullies. We speak truth to power. You are loved. We will see you soon. Love your teachers."
It's a great message.
Isn't it? We
Yeah.
got this one from Jillian. You know, Jillian's
of course.
a regular contributor to this show. She's actually appeared on the show before. She's a junior high school teacher. Jillian wrote in, subject line of her email, Johnny, she says, "Strike time." She says, "I was going to write a badass email, but I'm just heartbroken." She says, "We said goodbye to our students on Friday, unsure of when we'll see them again. The younger kids, grade 7, clearly anxious." Jill says, "It's easy to forget that school is many kids' safe space." Jason just said that. Or their only real form of stability in their lives. She says, "One of my new students sent me an email after school thanking me for my hard work and for being kind and generous. I've only been teaching him 5 weeks, so I just cried. My colleagues in elementary were a mess. Their students were in tears." Jillian says, "I remind myself why I have to do this, why we need to go through this heartbreak. I have 36 desks in my room and I can't fit in anymore. 1,000 teachers per year for 3 years is not enough when Alberta has over 2,000 schools." She says, "I have nowhere to put kids. It's uncomfortable. I recently realized we're now more exposed and vulnerable in there to even be in an active shooter situation. There are simply too many of us in the classroom. Schools now have 30 kids in kindergarten and elementary, 40 in junior high, 45 in high school classes. and we have to stop this now, she says, all caps. Now, she says, now, I don't know if we teachers will succeed in making this Smith government see sense, but I personally need to know that I tried everything I could. 51,000 teachers willing to each lose thousands of dollars in pay over the next few weeks, she says, optimistically, in order to save the education system here in Alberta. Who else but teachers would do something like this? She says teachers would sacrifice their lives. Teachers would take a bullet to protect their students. And tomorrow, which is now today, she says, I strike to help save my students' future. Yeah, we might fail, she says, but I'm not afraid of failing. I'm terrified of what it would mean. Failure would mean the kids that I teach, which are your kids, Alberta, deserve no better than to be the lowest funded students in Canada. Jillian says, I've never been in a fight this big before or this important. Wish me bon chance. That from Jillian.
Jillian always writes great emails. I won't even get into ranting because you know how I feel. I just pay the teachers. I don't care that they're the highest paid in the province. If I was at a job for 10 years, didn't get a raise, and in addition to that, financials weren't there. My job had gotten harder. The workload had gotten bigger. Not to mention, if we're talking about teaching specifically, I mean, just kids these days, man, like love you to death, but a lot of problems there, a lot of attention disorders, a lot of other stuff you have to deal with. And I just have the feeling that like teachers, nurses, all these people who deal with, like, I hate people. No, I'm just kidding. I love you real talkers, but like to be all those things. And then let's be honest, they're also babysitters. And you know, I know they don't like being referred to that. And I know parents take that as like an insult, but they are, because you're waking up today and you're realizing how hard it is when you have to deal with your kid at home and you have to do an online course. And you like I couldn't teach someone Math 30. I mean, I got through it, but I don't, you know, it's a very difficult job. Pay the teachers. Let's do it now.
Hooked on Math is watching us live on YouTube. Says, longtime listener, first-time watcher. Welcome to the live stream. Says, I'm always in the classroom during your live episodes, Jespo. So respect. Says, respect, classroom conditions, and supports for kids. That's what this is really all about. And says, we do need salaries that'll attract and retain quality teachers moving forward. We'll put this one in front of Supriya. Jennifer wrote into us. Jennifer says, Jespo, I attended the protest at the Alberta Legislature Sunday. They say they estimated 20,000 people were there. I've seen some people take issue with the number. People always want to take issue with the number, whether it's like Trump's inauguration or the protest. Well, can you show some photos? I mean, I don't know if it's 20,000, but there's a shitload of people there. Put it that way.
You want to argue numbers about Pierre Poilievre's rallies and the convoy, but like you cannot, Let's put it this way. There's thousands. There's thousands and thousands. This was one of the biggest
right?
ever.
Thomas Kazik says it's the biggest one he's ever seen. Says, Jennifer, the protest was positive, but you could feel the strength of conviction. People are very serious about standing up for a strong public system. The crowd, a mix of teachers, other unions, parents, grandparents, students. Jennifer says the protest left me with hope. One of the speakers talked about how public schools help create the fabric of communities and spaces where all types of kids can learn together. There's something special that happens in a community school, and it's critical that all children can access a high-quality education. She says quality education is an important factor in growing young people into adults who can get jobs and pay taxes and contribute to society. Jennifer closes saying, I stand with educators, I stand with children, and I stand for public education. Our good friend Supriya Dwivedi is watching all of this unfold from the Big Smoke, joining us every Monday from Toronto. Nice to see your face. Your thoughts on the first number of hours of the Alberta teachers strike?
I mean, look, I think your interview was incredibly compelling. My first thought, honestly, goes to all of the parents that today in Alberta are really trying to Johnny's point, like trying to figure out what to do with their kid and not having like an actual delineation of proper, timeline in front of them, all that uncertainty. It's incredibly difficult to, maintain your own working schedule while also caring for your kids. We all know that. And then the other thing that's really been, percolating in the back of my head here is the fact that for a lot of these kids, the older ones in particular, COVID wasn't that long ago. And in terms of like having to, the uncertainty with school, that's got to be at least to some degree triggering. It's got to mean, for them in instability, and that's never good. And I think what's interesting, not just in the context of this Alberta current strike, but if you're talking about governments, provincial governments generally across the board, whenever they go up against teachers, I think there tends to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there tends to be a bit of a miscalculation as to where the parents' frustration will be directed and where it will ultimately land. And I think in this situation, just like in basically every Ontario teacher strike situation, governments kind of find themselves in a corner when they're like, oh, actually the parents do agree that their teachers are underpaid, because to Johnny's point and to the president's point right there, it's like you have folks that are coming in that see their kid don't have a desk. They see their kids are being like stuffed into sardines in a classroom. Like these aren't like classrooms from back in our day have arguably gotten worse in terms of resources. And there's no parent alive that's going to be accepting of that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're like, when you're talking about your own kids, when you're talking about your kids' future, that's where I think fewer people are willing to fuck around with it, basically, to be candid about it. The fact of the matter is, on the flip side, though, I find it interesting that Alberta's finance minister issued a statement on this. Makes sense that he did, but it's not the education minister that issued the statement talking about the offer. Teachers have now rejected 2 offers. Jason Schilling just talked about them, between 12 to 17% pay raise over 4 years. Like, to speak candidly and frankly, there's a lot of people that would love to see a 12 to 17% pay raise over the next 4 years. He pegs it at 30%. I would say respectfully, and listen, my mom's a teacher, her 2 sisters are teachers, my sister-in-law is a teacher. I stand with teachers. I appreciate the teachers in my life who had a transformative impact on me. It is a very tough, to try to go get 30% from a government.
Oh, yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that. But to your point, and I think you said this off the top, it doesn't seem like it's just about money. It's about working conditions too, right?
For sure. But all of it does come down to money. I mean, it comes down to it in the sense of, like, if you're going to take class sizes from, Jillian that just wrote in, she's saying there's 45 kids in high school classes. That's wild. I mean, it's fine for the students who I bet you were this student that just had no problem, breezed through, straight A's. Johnny's laughing. I was not that, I was actually, I was the problem. I was the one trying to make everybody laugh in the back. I was the asshole that made life more difficult for my teachers.
I did both, okay? I had to get good grades because of the Tiger Indian parenting, but as we know, I do like to crack wise every now and again.
You do like to crack wise. But in all seriousness, like, you can't have 35 kindergarten kids. You can't have 45 high school kids. So what are we talking about? And if we're not talking about annexes and ATCO trailers, we're talking about building like dozens of new schools across the province, which is billions more dollars. The province is talking to that. They're talking about hiring 1,000 more teachers over the next few years. But it does come down to dollars and cents. And Alberta has its back against the wall. You and I talk and have talked regularly over the past few years, and it is absolutely wild, Supriya, depending on the month, depending on where oil prices are at. We're either talking to you in the context of Alberta looking at a $10 billion surplus or a $10 billion deficit,
Yeah, and that makes it really difficult to plan, and I get that. I'm also wondering, in terms of the conditions that the teachers have to put up with in Alberta, because this has been raised regularly in Ontario, that they have to deal quite a bit with violence from students, and students are a little bit more unruly than I guess they used to be. I think this is likely attributed to, COVID stuff and the aftermath of that. But do Alberta teachers have to deal with that same sort of thing? Because again, you're jamming 45 kids into a class here. Odds are at least a couple of them won't be the best apples out of the bunch.
I love this comment from Shirley in our live chat, by the way. She must have been listening to us romance the Friesen brothers' Thanksgiving dinner box, and she's got a metaphor here. Shirley says, Thanksgiving is coming. She says, imagine having 40 people over for a sit-down dinner. 2 are celiac, 4 are vegan, 5 can't have dairy. You live in a condo and you have 8 chairs. That's teaching. That from Shirley. That's very well said. Hey, you bring us valuable perspective from Ontario every week, and it goes without saying that your premier, Doug Ford's relationship with teachers has been contentious as well right now as well. There's been kind of the school board takeover. I remember that through the summer. Disputes over funding, class sizes, negotiations. Teachers' unions have criticized his government for cuts to public education. He's blamed union leadership for protracting those disputes. Do you see similarities in how Danielle Smith and Doug Ford are managing this file, or do you see like a demonstrable difference in Alberta?
No, I don't see a difference. And to be honest, I like, we're comparing Doug Ford and Danielle Smith, so it's easy to do because they're both ostensibly, governing from the right of of center, right? But I think this is somewhat comparable to, I think, all governments that get into, once they are actually government and no longer opposition, and it's just like to Jason's point about, when he was Wild Rose, when the minister
Bruce McAllister.
Yeah, when he was part of Wild Rose, he's like, we should listen to teachers. And now during government, it's like, well, maybe not.
Well, no, hey, so Bruce McAllister was the moderator. So he's executive. He has a senior position in the premier's office. He was the moderator at the Alberta Next panel that
muted the
we
mic.
assume muted the mic and then told the kid he should be spanked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this is a ridiculous thing. And I think that happens irrespective of whether you're right or left. It's just unfortunate right now that, we've got two right-leaning governments that seem as though they are purposely trying to underfund the system. And I got to say, like, my kid now goes to a public school. Prior to this, she's been going to a private school. There's a marked difference just in terms of class size, in terms of resources, in terms of how the school, communicates with parents, the kind of information that you get. And that's all to be expected to a degree. But I think when you're talking about, kids that are graduating that aren't able to do, reading and writing and math at the level that is to be expected, we're really shortchanging kids for what? For like dollars and cents now? Like, it just seems as though nobody's forward thinking about this. Like, what is actually going to happen when you have entire cohorts of publicly educated students that aren't doing math or aren't reading at the appropriate level as they're getting into post-secondary or as they're getting into the workforce? Like, this is a ticking time bomb in a way. And it's amazing to me that provincial governments all over the country seem to keep doing this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a personal question, so feel free to bump it. But when you made a decision to enroll your daughter in a public school, was that based on a belief in the value of public education, or were other factors at play?
So, if we want to pretend like it was a belief in the value of public education, we can say that. But if we want to be really honest, I moved, from Oakville, which was a suburb in Toronto, to Toronto proper. And, my kids had a bit of a transitional period for the last few years, right? My husband died 2 years ago, and I was moving her to a new house, a new neighborhood. My husband's parents used to live with us and were living with us, and now they live separately. And I just wanted to make sure that the school that my kid was going to, she'd have friends in the neighborhood. So that's honestly what it came down to. I wanted to make sure she'd go to the local school, and that, and now she has a bunch of friends that literally one lives around the corner, one lives on the same street. And it's nice. And so that's what I did. I did it more for community and to feel like we were a part of the neighborhood, more than anything else. But I got, again, completely honest here. There's obviously a difference in terms of the education. And I would say that without me trying to boost my own kids' reading and writing and math, on the weekend and after school and stuff, I would be kind of worried about where she would be headed otherwise. And that's not good, right? Like a lot of parents don't have the time. I have the luxury of time right now, and it's something that I'm able to do, but most people don't have that.
Huh. I don't know if you saw this tweet from the Prime Minister. It went out on World Teachers Day. But I have to assume that there may have been a little bit more to it. When Mark Carney was most recently in Edmonton to appear on Real Talk, and I think accomplished a couple other things as well. He visited
secondary to Real Talk.
All secondary to his Real Talk debut. He visited St. Rose School in Edmonton and took the chance for a photo op with the teachers there, the present day teachers there. He posts yesterday on World Teachers Day. He says, when I was a kid, the dedicated teachers at St. Rose in Edmonton showed up every day to set my peers and I up for success. A few weeks ago, he says, I had the chance to go back and thank the teachers who were doing the same for the next gen. building a stronger Canada, one lesson at a time on World Teachers Day. Thank you to the incredible teachers all across Canada. Perhaps he would have tweeted that if Alberta's teachers were not on the precipice of a strike, the largest strike in Alberta's history, public sector strike in Alberta's history. But are you surprised to see? You've been a senior advisor to a Prime Minister of Canada. Are you surprised? It's a bit of a troll, isn't it? It's a bit of a troll job there, isn't it?
It is slightly, but only once you pointed it out. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Okay.
I think if you're not in Alberta, you may not be up to date in terms of like exactly what's going on. So for the rest of the country, maybe. But yeah, I mean, once you put it that way, it does seem a little bit like it's a trolley shot across the bow or whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
it's an interesting move, particularly since, and we've talked about this before, you and I, that him and Premier Smith seem to be getting along quite well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the trolley
And,
kind of thing you
like,
want to do right now.
When's the last time? And I'm not saying he is doing this. I think he's riding the line. And subtly, it's subtle and it's not subtle at the same time. But you would never see the Prime Minister really comment on a labor dispute between a provincial government and a major union, except to say something along the lines of, I hope that they're able to achieve a resolution as soon as possible and get Alberta kids back in the classroom, right?
100%. The most milquetoast statement you could think of. That's like, we
Yeah.
wish both sides to come together to an agreement.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
my Prime Minister voice.
So he's on his way down to D.C., by the way. This is going to be a big one. The Prime Minister of Canada meeting with Donald Trump. This is the first meeting in a while. And obviously, Carney, is it fair to say he's on the clock? Canadians are starting to look for delivery on his promises that he can get a deal done in a circumstance that looks less and less likely. What are you focusing on this week?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of it. You've already noted stakes are quite high here, right? And, you know, to your point, and you were doing this somewhat diplomatically, but the reason why they're so high is because the government themselves keep putting forward these like arbitrary deadlines and these metrics on things. You know, initially it was like we were going to get a tariff-free deal. And then that had to be walked back because the reality is nobody's really getting a tariff-free deal. And most of the deals that have been signed still have some level of baseline, you know, tariffs to them. Then there was another timeline deadline that they put. Initially, it was going to be like July 1st, right? They wanted to time it to Canada Day or whatever. And then that got pushed back to August. Both of those have been blown past. And so when you're setting up these expectations, I think Canadians are very patient. I think we're like a reasonable people, right? Like we're so reasonable that for others, it's like, wow, okay, that's incredibly reasonable. So, but I don't see that if you're constantly blowing past your own deadlines and you don't have anything to show for it. So I think they're going to start walking that sort of stuff back where they're not going to, you know, put out these goals for themselves that they then don't achieve. But I think increasingly, as you're seeing, you know, and some polls are starting to reflect this, like things are still kind of bad here, right? In terms of affordability. Like ask anybody how their grocery prices are going, right? Like things aren't necessarily coming down. And so when folks are starting to feel the pinch of everyday life, increasingly your frustration will get turned towards somebody. And that's generally the incumbent government. And that's generally because you have an opposition that is hammering the government on the very things that, you know, they're not doing. And I think if Poilievre continues this, you know, battering of the Liberals on affordability and on everyday issues that matter to Canadians, you're going to start to see those polls become a lot tighter.
Yeah, Supriya Dwivedi, our guest. We're talking to you, you know, one day away from the 2-year anniversary of that brutal October 7th attack, and reportedly the president, Donald Trump, was unhappy that Canada recognized Palestine as a state, along with other nations. This, as the president himself is working to achieve a peace deal there, and ultimately, I think everybody knows, wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Could you see something like that in a scenario with an individual? I'm talking about Trump, where it is widely acknowledged that he does hold grudges, that malice is part of his MO, that something like that could hamper trade talks? Or, I mean, when it comes to international negotiations, when you're talking about G7 leaders, is that kind of stuff a non-factor?
With any other G7 leader, I would say it's a non-factor. Literally any other G7 leader, any other G20 leader for the most part, right? You could kind of give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not going to come into a negotiation on trade in bad faith, and that they're not going to use like weird, vindictive, grudge-holding measures against you. But I don't think that's true for President Trump. And I don't think whatever, rules, if you want to call them that, we would ascribe to other world leaders are applicable to him, because he doesn't give a shit and he's going to do whatever he wants to do at the end of the day. So it wouldn't surprise me, to your point about him wanting the Nobel Peace Prize so badly, if that he brought that up by name to Prime Minister Carney to say, like, listen, as you know, I'm trying to get the Nobel Peace Prize. So it'd be really great if you could get behind my plan and then nominate me, or be one of the folks that go forward to nominate me. Like, that would not be out of the question, I don't think, at all.
I don't know if you're a betting person or not. Do you think that one day, do you think Donald Trump will win the Nobel Peace Prize? Yes or no?
I'm going to go, sure, yes, why not? Crazier things have happened,
I think he
and
will.
if he is actually able to pull something off, then who's
great.
to say?
Right?
You know?
Great.
Yeah.
Like if Donald Trump, like he made a comment yesterday before he was boarding Air Force Two, and he said something along the lines of, and it's like, I was kind of like, obviously nothing funny about what's happening in Gaza right now, but I smirked when he said it, because he's campaigning for it. It's obvious, but he was talking about ordering Israel to stop bombing Gaza, which it's not, by the way, and basically said, if we're able to accomplish this, it's a big deal. Says Trump. He says if we're able to accomplish this, it would bring peace to the region for the first time in, they're saying, and then he like looks into the camera and he goes, 3,000 years, and he's actually not wrong. Johnny's got a doctored photo of right.
I love it.
And as soon as it's over, he's going to build a big casino on the strip there in Gaza.
Perfect.
Yeah, no kidding.
Trump Casino.
Yeah, I think he could win it too. But listen, if he is able to broker a deal that brings peace to the Middle East, I say give the man the prize. As far as I'm concerned, that's what it's all about. And I mean, 2 years into this absolute disaster, this absolute tragedy, something needs to happen there. I had to double check that the story of the Trump coin was actually real. I don't know if you've been following this. I assume you've seen this. To commemorate America's 250th birthday, Donald Trump says that the U.S. will mint a $1 coin, showing the president with his fist raised skyward, and of course on the back as well. The digging that I've done, the reading that I've seen, the reporting on this is that this is actually like not allowed under American law, because he's still living. Your thoughts on the Trump coin?
So, I mean, the first thought is, if they have a dollar coin over there, then it's like, and he's on it. And it's like, well, talk about a loony, am I right? Like, it's like the jokes kind of rip themselves.
Hey-o!
But yeah, exactly. But the thing that struck me, and you kind of touched on this, is that, yeah, the laws, they don't allow for it because he is a living president, and whatever the act prescribes, it's something like you can't have a living president and it can't be any sooner than 2 years posthumously, like after their death or whatever, if you're going to commemorate them. There is some sort of an exception, I do believe, for like commemorative coins that go out. But the best part about all of this is that I don't think any of it matters. What do the rules matter right now? Like he constantly flouts rules left, right, and center. So I think the fact that we're all being like, well, this coin, is it real? Will break the law if they actually did it? I don't think that matters. I think if he wants it, or if the people around him want it, it's going to happen. And I think the rest of us have to stop acting so shocked when he just goes ahead and does whatever he wants to do anyway.
I want to bring it back to Carney and Trump. This Strong Borders Act, Bill C-2, is a pretty significant piece of the Liberal government's legislation, a big priority this fall, and I think for sure a key part in Canada's, I guess, Carney's desire to indicate to the Americans that Canada's getting serious. Or more serious, let's say, about border security. This first introduced in the spring sitting, I think used to justify tariffs. The government says, or at least government House Leader Steve McKinnon has said, that it's about ensuring that law enforcement has the tools to keep our borders secure. But civil rights groups and privacy experts have been very critical of it. And Pierre Poilievre says that there's no way that the Conservatives will support it in current form. Who do you think is correct at this point on this? Are you more with Carney? Do you think it's a move in the right direction, or do you think Poilievre has a good point?
Nope, Poilievre has a good point. Poilievre has a super good point, and I think the Conservatives should keep hammering this. And it should also be pointed out that left-leaning parties like the NDP, as well as the Bloc Québécois, have raised serious issues with this bill as well. And I think that's somewhat indicative of how shitty this bill is. I'm sorry, there's no other way to say it. I understand that Minister McKinnon, as well as the rest of the Liberal front bench and back bench, are out here defending this bill, but it is batshit crazy. If you actually read the bill and look at what it is going to do, ostensibly it's about making our borders safe and ensuring that you have law enforcement that have these tools that are available. However, if you look at the wording of the actual bill, none of it's limited, and they provide very broad powers to law enforcement in the U.S. even, for example, where we would share our data. The example that is used regularly by the Liberal government is that no, this is just to see so that police, if there's a terrible internet crime occurring, they can then just ask your telecommunications provider for very limited information. And that's not it at all, because service provider isn't even defined in the bill. And this has been pointed out by multiple academics, lawyers. You mentioned the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. Like, they're all in on warning the public about what's contained in this bill. And when you have so many different groups that are all sort of saying that this bill is, no bueno, and to go back to the drawing board, or to at least, severely amend it before moving it forward, it just looks like the Liberal government, A, isn't listening, but B, it also kind of belies this whole elbows up thing, because we're going in elbows down being like, yes, U.S. law enforcement, we'll give you anything. Just please. And it's very, I don't know, it's unbecoming. I think it makes us look weak. And quite frankly, there are things we can do to beef up that border that I'm sure would, satiate the Trump administration, that wouldn't also sell out Canadians' privacy rights.
Yeah. I mean, some of the stuff's wild, like, just to get specific into it. The bill that would potentially allow government agencies to obtain personal and sensitive data about people. To be clear, I'm not talking about people that are building bombs or on white supremacist stuff like that. But online behavior, subscription history, device identifiers without judicial oversight's wild. All that stuff can obviously also be taken out of context, right? The standard of reasonable suspicion is seen to be low. I'm just reading some of the reasons why civil rights and privacy groups have spoken out on it and criticized it. The gag order provisions that limit transparency. In other words, people may not even know that their information has been accessed, which I think is pretty wild. People just saying that it conflicts with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, including protections against unreasonable search and seizure and the right to privacy. And of course, the concern, I think civil rights groups in particular are crying foul that they could be used disproportionately against marginalized groups, migrants, racialized people that are politically dissenting. That's a huge one, or activists as well.
Yeah, there's a long list, and this isn't concerns sometimes can be assuaged or be mitigated by just really small tweaks to the legislation, right? By the point I made earlier about they don't necessarily define service provider, and that can be interpreted quite broadly and will essentially be interpreted quite broadly if passed as precedent, is problematic. So just limit the scope. The example, I wrote about this a few weeks ago for a column in the Toronto Star, and the example that keeps coming to me is the fact that if U.S. law enforcement requests data on somebody's health information, we'd have to give it over according to this bill. That's really messed up. Do we really want, if some woman comes over and is taking Plan B, which is available here via pharmacy, that it's going to be an issue for them and that they're then going to be punished in the States? That's really, really messed up. And I want people from both the left and the right to realize that once governments give away your privacy, they don't tend to give it back. This is not one of those things that once they get used to being able to surveil you, and that it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier with, technology nowadays, and the fact that the U.S. government is, partnering with Palantir, which is a giant surveillance company. It very, very problematic. And you get into Black Mirror stuff real quick. And I know I can often sound like a tinfoil hat weirdo, but this is real. You don't want governments to be able to track you everywhere you go. And for folks that, and you hear this a lot, well, you have nothing to hide. And it's like, yeah, you may not have anything to hide. Like, I don't really have anything to hide either. But you don't want the government weaponizing your own data against you. And governments aren't always good. And you can sometimes get bad governments who are going to do bad things with this data. And I think that's, if this bill isn't seriously amended, we're going to be given over a lot of information that we shouldn't be given over.
I like that quote. I'm ready to make a highlight reel and throw a tinfoil hat on Supriya.
Oh, yeah. Johnny's Photoshop game right now is very on point. He had Trump with the Nobel. What do you even call that? It's like,
That's his Peace Prize. That's his dream.
With the fattest, thickest gold chain that I've ever seen in my entire life. Yeah. Hey, we've saved we've saved the most important story to last. And I definitely have to make sure that I get your take on Bad Bunny performing.
Yes.
At this, Johnny, you knew this was coming. Super Bowl halftime show, Bad Bunny. This. And, America's conservatives are pushing back, are revolting. Is this the most controversial halftime show selection in Super Bowl history?
No, arguably it was somebody like, no, first of all, no. Second of all, Bad Bunny is like one of the biggest artists in the U.S. right now. So this whole notion that MAGA is coming at him and being like, he's not a real American. Are they unaware of where Puerto Rico is? Like, Puerto Rico is part of America, dude. Or like, he doesn't represent, and it's like, yeah, he's not there to represent anybody. He's there to have a good show and for people to have a bop in the middle of a game. Like, that's what it is, and that's all it is. And I think anybody who is as successful and as talented as Bad Bunny is should be welcome to a stage. And it doesn't hurt that he looks good in a pair of Calvins.
People love the bunny body. And also,
people love the bunny body.
Bunny body, is that a thing?
Also, in the U.S., Supriya, Bad Bunny is arguably the biggest artist in terms of streams, concert ticket sales. I mean, Taylor Swift is up there, but he still gets more streams. He's the number one stream Spotify artist the last 2 years. So, I mean, to make an argument to say the Super Bowl shouldn't have arguably the biggest artist in the world right now is just insane to me. Like,
yeah, and look, I don't speak a lick of Spanish. My entire repeated song list, Spotify gives you like a repeat playlist or whatever. The first 6 songs are all Bad Bunny. Okay, so yeah, like he transcends language.
Unbelievable. We always love connecting with you. We always love how you call it, how you see it. And we'll let everybody know that while we are all gathering and taking a big day next Monday for Thanksgiving, we will talk to you next Tuesday.
Sounds good, Ryan.
All right, my friend. Thanks very much. That's Supriya Dwivedi, who joins us typically every Monday, or at least let's say the first episode of every week right here on Real Talk. Johnny, I got to get more on your take on Bad Bunny. And how have we gone, by the way, this deep into the show without talking about the Toronto Blue Jays? There's just a lot going on right now. So more in just a second. If you're watching us as opposed to listening, you may have seen that Johnny is repping his Jays blue today. I love to see it. Just back-to-back bangers against the New York Yankees. This conversation is happening with the support of our incredible friends at California Closets. Absolute best in the business when it comes to custom closets and storage solutions for the whole home. I ran into Cameron Johnson. He's the president of California Closets a short time ago, and I told him, I said, you know what I love, Cam, about our California Closet installation? We invested in that back in 2017, so we're coming up on 10 years. Still looks amazing. I said, for me, it's like the small things. It's the details. It's when I open up the drawers in my closet, there's like these little compartments for like cufflinks and little areas where you can have like, all your little accoutrement, Johnny, your lapel pins. It's not all mixed up. It's not thrown into a junk drawer. That's because what I specifically asked for was that, your custom vision may be different, and California Closets can work with it in a way that'll also work with your budget. Oh, and by the way, it's all guaranteed for life. Now, the California Closet's journey starts with a free design consultation. That's where you can talk about the vision. You can talk about what you're able to invest in it, and that's when their designers go to work. You can request that free consultation today by visiting californiaclosets.ca. You probably heard of Civic Service Union 52. Before CSU 52, they represent over 7,000 frontline and professional workers across Edmonton and other parts of Alberta. We're talking 911 and 311 operators, city planners, IT specialists, library staff, technical staff at the Edmonton Police Service, and many, many more. These are the people who build, maintain, and serve Edmonton every single day. And this election, coming up October 20th, CSU 52 is prioritizing a safe, smart, welcoming, and fair city. You can read more about their priorities by visiting their website, edmontonforeveryone.ca. You know, Thursdays here on Real Talk, we celebrate our home province of Alberta. Big wins on the national or international stage. It's Alberta Wins, presented by Play Alberta. Right now, Play Alberta is offering odds boosts on every Oilers game all season long. We're like 48 hours, we're like 54 hours right now away from puck drop on the regular season. Big Battle of Alberta. Well, all season long, your chance to score big. For a limited time only, Real Talkers can get an exclusive $50 free bet when you deposit $50 using the code RYAN50. That's RYAN50, all one word, RYAN50, for an exclusive $50 free bet. Alberta Wins with Play Alberta. Download the app today. Visit them online at playalberta.ca. You must be 18 or over to play. And if you gamble, please do use your game sense. Pathways Alliance. You heard Mark Carney talking about it when he was here on the show September 10th. This is 6 of Canada's largest oil sands companies working together to help grow the Canadian economy. You can learn more about what they're doing by visiting pathwaysalliance.ca. You know, the oil and gas sector employs nearly 500,000 people across Canada, 446,000 at last count, while generating billions in tax and royalty revenue. And of course, those income taxes, the royalties paid by the industry, are helping fund roads, bridges, schools, and more. You can learn more about the Pathways Alliance initiative, how Alberta's oil sands are responding to global demand, by visiting pathwaysalliance.ca. And our friends at North Road Investment Council have a message for established professionals and business owners that are asking big financial questions. You know, like, should you pay yourself in dividends or salary? Should you put savings into a TFSA or your RRSP, or maybe just leave investment inside your corp for your eventual retirement, right? Maybe there's an option that your current investment advisor hasn't even brought to your attention. At North Road Investment Council, these are the questions that they help clients answer every single day. For Real Talk audience members, if your businesses are earning greater than $200,000 or more annually, if you're over the age of 40, an option that deserves a serious look is the individual pension plan. They call it the IPP. It's a powerful retirement strategy that can provide higher tax-deferred savings over RRSPs, and there's a lot of other valuable features, but it's not for everyone. And that's why the team at North Road Investment Council has put together a clear, plain language white paper outlining the benefits and the challenges of an IPP so that you can determine if it's right for you. You can check out their website today. That's northroadic.com to request your copy today. That's North Road Investment Council at northroadic.com. So how about those Jays?
Oh, how about them?
Unbelievable performance. The first 2 games against the New York Yankees.
Oh, yeah.
I will acknowledge, following sort of the final few innings, once the Jays rookie sensation was relieved after, what was it, 5.5 innings, something like that, hitless innings,
11 strikeouts,
unbelievable performance by Trey
Savage.
Yeah. Right? New club record. Three club records established during that game. Hey, 11 strikeouts in a postseason game, 5 dingers in a postseason game, and the Jays' first postseason grand slam by Vlad Guerrero Jr. I was surprised to hear that there hadn't been one before.
That was just insane, and So my mother and sister were in town from Toronto. You were in Toronto, and we were kind of keeping in touch over the weekend. But we sat down just down the road here at first round, and I said, "Hey, the Jays game is starting." We got there a little late, like 3:30, and all of a sudden we get in there, dude. It was packed. First of all, everyone. Well, it was football, of course, that day as well.
Right.
But people stuck around for the Jays game, and I'm watching it. Oh, another run. And I'm like, oh, the Yankees are having major bullpen problems. Like the pitchers they can't figure it out. Like this team is just, it's maybe it's the matchup. I don't know. But Yankees are not a bad team by any means.
They're a great team.
So it's just the batting box and the bullpen on the Yankees. It's mismatched. And so anyways, run after run after run. I look up, I'm like, oh, Mom, bases are loaded. And I see Vladdy coming up and I'm like, this would be absolutely insane.
Right.
Like, even if he hits a couple runners in, right? People are going to go insane because we're already up 7-0, 8-0, whatever it was, 6-0. And he steps up and hits this dinger. I'm showing the pitcher now. Look at the pitcher. When he hit this ball, his face was like, this is the stain on my career. And to make it worse was this bat flip that we're now showing, which was A, just so awesome, but B, also a tip to of the hat.
Little tip of the cap. Yeah, exactly. Wasn't that great?
Our buddy who did it a few years ago. But when he hit this grand slam, Ryan,
You're talking about Jose Batista.
Jose Batista. Yeah, I couldn't hear a thing in first round. People were like, oh my God. And then I've got my relatives who, friends of relatives who live downtown, and you can buy high rises around Rogers Center and look directly down. You can literally see the game from your high rise. And I'm getting videos sent from those people to my relatives to me where they're watching on the balcony and just the insane. I mean, I just love, there's nothing better than 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people all moving at the same time. And the city is on fire. The stadium is electric. The Toronto Blue Jays are on a roll right now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're happy because it's the Yankees, but next round, you never know.
Yeah, well, and I don't even want to go ahead to the next round. Like, let's say it's a best of 5 right now, the ALDS. So you've got 2 in the bag, which is awesome, heading back to the Bronx. But you've got to recognize that the New York Yankees are the New York Yankees. And,
no matter how you slice
and
it.
it's not, I mean, I think it's, you don't even, I feel like I don't even want to jinx anything. I don't want to say anything. I already feel like I screwed things up during the Stanley Cup final most recently, getting super excited.
Yeah.
We bought a couple studio furniture pieces to accommodate a Stanley Cup parade. And I think that I've tried to own this and wear this, that I feel like I personally may be responsible for the Edmonton Oilers losing the Stanley Cup.
Really?
Well, I confess that to you. This is my first public admission of such. So I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I would just say it's amazing to see Vladdy's bat heating up again.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing to see, and I'm not the huge baseball guy, but I would just say like big game by Varsho, 2 doubles, 2 homers. You've got, Alejandro Kirk, the catcher, just still continuing to perform at an incrable level.
Springer dingers.
Trey Savage. so he goes in, he sets a Jays record. He was only one of 5 rookie pitchers in Major League history to throw 11 strikes in a postseason game. But let's be clear, this is his 4th start ever. Hazel May interviewing his parents and his brother, talking to them in the stands. How incredible was that?
Emotional.
I love hearing his dad. I love the story. I love these stories about, parents and sharing what probably one of the most famous ones is Sidney Crosby's dryer, the dryer in the laundry room at the Crosby home. And I think that dryer now is on display somewhere, but he used to open up the door and fire pucks into the dryer and just absolutely mangled this thing.
Yeah.
But his dad, Savage's dad, talking about how he built, Trey did as a kid, built a pitcher's mound in their own backyard. And when his dad or his brother Cole, I think is his name, weren't there to catch for him, he would just throw against a target, pitch after pitch after pitch. And just imagining, this is a young guy. I think, what is he, 22 or something? He's a young guy to come in and just dominate in a hugely important game in front of 44,000 fans.
Killed it.
Just remarkable. But this is great. Jay's manager says last night in an interview, he says it's not lost on us I was watching the game, by the way, on my phone on the flight back from Ottawa. It was tough, man. It was like, I was like, how am I not? I had the huge honor of, I was hanging out with our friend Vicky Mochama in Ottawa this weekend, speaking at there's a group called Press Forward, which is an advocacy group really for independent media producers in Canada. And they had me out speaking at it's called the Future of Independent Media Summit in Ottawa. But I was so very tempted to try to find a way to get to Toronto to get to the game. Didn't work out, and so I'm flying back, just watching the game on my phone on the WestJet flight. But it's like the whole plane, like it was amazing. You could see how many people were streaming the game, and the whole plane would like react. Like when Vladdy hit the grand slam,
that's amazing.
The plane reacted in real time, and then manager after says, he goes, "It's not lost on us that we are playing for Canada." And you can feel that enthusiasm in the park. It was wild.
And I understand that. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer like, wah, wah, wah. But this is why sports are funny to me. It's amazing to me that, like, I grew up in Ontario. Everyone loves the Jays. But as soon as hockey season starts here and the World Series is over, they hate the Leafs. I'm just like, come on, what's going on here? Like, and for me, like, even with hockey, I just want to see it back in Canada. Like, I don't care if it's, I know you care if it's the Leafs. I don't care if it's the Leafs, the Flames. I just want to see that cup come back here.
No,
so,
I would be okay. I mean, I know
anybody but Florida.
It's fun to hate. It's fun to hate on the Leafs.
Florida.
But also, I get it. I mean, I feel like 1967. It's been long enough.
Yeah.
It's glee. It's like this sort of like gleeful thing to see the Leafs lose every year.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it came down to the fact that the Leafs were going to bring a Stanley Cup back to Canada, sure. I just don't think it's their time. It's Edmonton's time, man.
Yeah.
It's Edmonton's time. Let's go.
Yeah.
Didn't you and I both believe, though, to a certain degree, that we might see news from 97 over the weekend?
Yeah. And I mean, there was some rumors that like there was a press conference for Monday and it was canceled and it might be Tuesday, but I'm seeing most of the insiders saying that it's likely that we're going to start a season here without a signed Connor McDavid, without a signed captain, which, I mean, people are freaking out about it, but like Connor, he doesn't have any reason to sign right away, even if he's 100% sure. Like, we've been talking about other things.
Except to maybe remove the distraction.
Well, 100%. But you know what? Think about this. Like, think about all the reasons he could be waiting, including one that we've talked about that may be way out there. But, like, let's say a certain player that he would like to get on the team perhaps has a chance to come there, and he's thinking, hey, no, this isn't about me being the highest paid. This is about me maybe shuffling some of my money aside so I can get this guy or these players later in the season so that we can actually win a cup, because Connor doesn't care about money. He's got all the money in the world from sponsorship, makes more than that than the NHL and the Edmonton Oilers pay him from just, picking up a, what is it? I don't want to say the wrong name of his gloves or his stick or whatever.
Yeah.
CCM Bauer, whatever
CCM,
it is.
yeah.
This guy doesn't care about money. He cares about wins. So I'm not going to say the player's name because people will say we're crazy, but there's been certain names that have come up that like maybe that person could come to the Oilers halfway.
Who are you talking about? David Pasternak?
No, I will say it right now, but we're all
Sidney Crosby?
Yes.
Crosby's not coming to Edmonton.
But what I'm saying is a player that could level them up and fill out the roster and finish off the roster could be coming later before the trade deadline. And Connor's the type of guy where he's a humble guy. Maybe he'll give $4 million to that person, right?
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of other reasons other than that he may not be signing. But also, like, people were like, he's waiting for this guy to sign. He's waiting for this date. He's waiting for this trade. Or
Kirill Kaprizov was the one that a lot of people think got 17 million times 8. Right?
He's
like,
waiting till we get another goalie. Here comes Ingram. It's stop pushing it, because it's likely now that on Wednesday when the puck drops, he's not going to be signed.
Yeah, I love this from Dwayne, who says that the Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup win should not be the lyrics to a tragically hip song alone. He's talking about Bill Barilko, 50 Mission Cap. He says maybe they can win the Stanley Cup. I don't know. This is a fair comment from Tony. He says, oh, God, you guys. She says people have been saying that it's the Oilers' time for like 10 years. Whitrium says Florida will win their third cup. Then Connor will sign a 1-year agreement in Florida and help them win their fourth? Come on. Florida's in trouble this year, man. Alex Barkov out for the year. Matthew Tkachuk out until the Olympics. Florida's in trouble.
Look, man, I'm from Florida. I love the state. I love my relatives down there. But Florida, F's around all year. Like Barkov could come back at the playoffs. You know, that's what they do.
But now they have these playoff salary caps, so it's going to make it a little bit more challenging for him for sure. But yeah, and then it's not lost on me also that we started the episode talking about teachers who are looking for the financial supports that they need to be able to be in the classroom and continue their careers, educating our next generation.
Give Connor everything.
And people now are like, give McDavid whatever he's asking for. Give McDavid $20 million a year.
He gets the summers off too, guys. Okay.
Yeah, unbelievable. So by the way, McDavid's endorsements, body armor, BetMGM.
Let me guess.
Okay.
They're more than his salary for sure.
I'm not sure.
Not over full contract, but they're more than his salary a year.
I'm not sure. I can't say,
okay.
but no. Well, it says here this is just a search. It's estimated that he earns $6 million annually from his endorsement deals. So who knows? But he has he had an early deal. Did you know he signed with Reebok CCM when he was 15?
Yeah, but he's got other stuff. Like I'm looking at your list on
Alo Yoga, Adidas, BetMGM, Body Armor, CIBC, Rogers Communications, Upper Deck. The Upper Deck one's interesting. That's why. So he can only like. I shouldn't speak out of school because I don't know all the details, but he's on a different landscape than all of the other Oilers players with regards to what he can sign, where he can sign it.
Sure.
Right. So that's not to say that like if he sees a kid out on the street, he's not going to sign his jersey. I'm sure he would. But he's limited into signing. Like, I don't think he'll sign like cards other than Upper Deck cards. And there's certain rules around it. It's kind of interesting.
I've seen videos of him refusing certain cards.
Because I think contractually he has to. So anyway, the fact of the matter is it's probably not all about money for McDavid, and we certainly don't speak for him, obviously. But I would say it still is it's always a little bit about money. Sure. Like if you're the best player in the world, you probably believe inherently that unless it really hurts your team, you should be paid the highest salary of any hockey player in the world.
When you are the best player in the world, he's an anomaly, right? We're not just talking about a good hockey player. We're talking about the best hockey player in the world. But when you're talking about endorsements, I also know he does one-offs, and like I know he's Go Auto here in Edmonton. You didn't mention that. When he does a Tim Hortons commercial, I'm sure he gets paid a couple million to do that with him and Sid. So like, there's all
that's McKinnon though. I don't think that
or whatever he does a random commercial or a random advertisement, one-off. Also, let's talk about just the household. Let's not forget Mrs. McDavid is very, very successful.
Yeah,
she's got clothing lines that have several collabs that branch off. She's got a restaurant. She's got a interior design company. So I would say that household is fine without, hey, I have to be paid $0.5 million more than the last guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, you had speaking of Lauren, Lauren Kyle, is she going by McDavid? Lauren McDavid. She has her clothing brand. Is it Atelier Sports Atelier, whatever it's called?
Yeah.
And they partnered with CFR, Canadian Finals Rodeo, was in Edmonton over the weekend. You had a chance to go to, how was CFR? Courtesy of our friends at Explore Edmonton. We should give them a shout out.
The vegans are coming for me.
Well, no, you had a chance to go. You were representing Real Talk by making an appearance.
I do want to talk about
how did it go?
Because, I'm not a proponent. We just talked about zoos on Friday. We talked about circuses, the CFR. But you know what? We didn't stay for like calf roping and all these other things. You know what we did see was, the Bronco busting, that kind of stuff. We stayed for the barrel. Okay, of all of it, my mother and Jenny, first of all, thank you for the hookup. We're in Sports.
It was Explore Edmonton, yeah.
We're in Sportsnet Lounge. We're on Drink Rail 1, 2, 3.
Amazing.
Perfect. Food, drinks, everything. We sit down, and my mother and sister didn't know how to feel about it. They're not fans of rodeo. They're from Ontario. It's not really big there, right?
Sure, it's not their main jam.
And they had concerns, too, about the animals and stuff when we get there. So I said, let's go so that we go for these certain events that are kind of not, as full on. And you know what? They had the best time ever, dude.
Oh, amazing.
They absolutely love the female athletes barrel racing is absolutely insane how fast they are.
It's incredible.
These girls, these women are 14, 15. I was like, they bring out some girl after it and they're like, and the next up and comer who wasn't in this year, but keep an eye on her. She's 9 years old. She came out. I was like 9 years old. Like this is, so I don't want to say that I was 100% there supporting everything, but it is. But man, the CFR, I got a taste of what I understand it now, Albertans. I get why you enjoy this athleticism so much because they are absolutely athletes. Yeah. They are absolutely crazy trained. And man, it's just like sports when the guy doesn't make the time or when they don't there is some serious heartbreak going on in that arena, Ryan. There's And but props to the MC, whoever he was. I forget. I wrote down his name, but then I didn't. But to even get to the CFR is like a big accomplishment, right? So even the guys that fail, even the girls that, hit over a couple barrels, their time goes to like 20, 15 seconds. You got to be like probably around 13 or under to win. He's saying, hey, I heard the sighs, I heard the ums and ahs.
Was it Brett Gardner?
Yes, it was. I
He's
think
so
that was his
good.
name. And he's like, give it up for these women and men because it's an accomplishment just to make it there, right? But it was crazy. And then the stuff in the intermission, they're lassoing with like fire, and one girl came out riding 2 horses, she like standing on them. All of these people very the men seem to be a little older, like 20 to 35, 40, whatever. But it seems like the females, especially in this sport, rodeo in general, are all very young and very talented. I don't know if that's something just the upbringing. I'm guessing it is. You grow up on a farm, you grow up in a rodeo family. You're just kind of in it from the beginning, kind of like Sid with the pucks in the dryer. You're just out there riding horses, and it's just part of your upbringing and your culture, right? But those out of all of it, I'll say it one more time: female rodeo athletes blew us away.
Yeah, fantastic. I will plug. Remember a show we did on October 2nd. Of 2024, so just over a year ago. Do you remember this? The episode, if you want to check it out, if you are a big rodeo enthusiast, it's called Behind the Scenes at Canadian Finals Rodeo, or you can just Google Brett Gardner, Real Talk, Ryan Jespersen. He joined us, 13-time Canadian Pro Rodeo Announcer of the Year. He joined us to talk about mental health, which was incredible. I mean, obviously, he talked a lot about his career in rodeo as well. But do you remember Lynette Broadway was with us as well? She was the CFR defending barrel racing champion. And then Brett Manea was with us as well. He's like the I think they call them bullfighters now. They don't call them rodeo clowns anymore, I don't think. But like this guy has what's got to be the wildest job in the world.
Yeah. I didn't see any clowns. They look like professionals.
No, yeah, they are.
Like
I don't know that they dress up like.
No.
But like that was a really incredible episode. I'm glad you gave a tip of the cap to Brett Gardner because he is the best in the business. That was October 2nd of 2024. If you want to check out that episode, and congratulations to all of the 2025 champions.
I'll even give
Canadian
a
Finals Rodeo.
Tip of the hat to the DJ, man. He's like I was like, wow, this is so much because I've done football, I've done lacrosse, I've done professional hockey in the NHL for 8 years.
Yeah.
The switching is way faster than any sport I've ever seen in my life because you got to play an opening song as the athlete comes out. You're playing a song as they're getting ready in there. When they lift the gate, there's a pumper. If they immediately fall off or there's sign of an injury, that music comes down. It's a somber song. If they have a good run or whatever they're involved in, whatever the sport is that they're doing, it's another high uplifting song. Then there's a bed because the guy's got to say their time or whatever, or what place they're in. The switching of songs, he must have played 7 songs in like less than a minute. I was like, this guy, and I'm watching him too. I can see him down there with his little clicking on the buttons. But overall, an incredible experience. And I will just say that, it kind of, I got it. For a minute, I was sucked in, and
it's easy
I
to
got
get
it.
There's a reason why the Calgary Stampede has been the greatest outdoor show on earth for a century.
We will still debate chuck wagging next year.
We can still debate
summer.
it. I'm happy to debate it. I grew up with it. I love it. Not everybody does. I acknowledge that. This is great. Dwayna Bowena, great handle in our live chat, powered by Park Power. Get exclusive deals, by the way, Real Talkers. Save money on internet, electricity, natural gas by checking out parkpower.ca/Real Talk. Dwayna Bowena says, rumor has it McDavid will take less salary and shares in OEG instead so we can sign a great player. Says the NHL would take forever to okay that deal, says an insider told me this.
Oh, everyone knows
Everybody's
a guy,
got
right?
the insider. Randy, meantime, on the teachers' strike, says, I predict that they will order the teachers back after 12 days. Being out just before the Alberta legislative session opens on October 23rd. Want to let you know, Real Talkers, that we have confirmed we will welcome Alberta's Education Minister, Dimitrios Nikolaitis, to the show. That'll be live Wednesday, 2 days from today. That'll be the 8th of October at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. We'll get the minister's take. We'll get the government's position on that teacher's strike. Want to know where they're coming from. Want to know, in their estimation, why this agreement has not materialized. Remember, teachers have voted down 2 offers thus far. So Dimitrios Nikolaitis, Alberta's Minister of Education, will be joining us Wednesday, the 8th of October at 8:30 Mountain. Of course, you'll be able to watch that later on YouTube or catch it on the podcast on demand whenever it works for you. Before we get to positive reflections, I do want to make sure, and you guys are going to hear us talking a lot about UCAN Youth Services this year. This is Real Talk's charity of choice for 2025-26. And that is because we are such huge believers in what they're doing. We're talking a lot today, and we'll be talking a lot this week. And who knows for how long. I hope this strike resolves itself ASAP. I know that, the majority of you do as well for obvious reasons. But we're going to be talking a lot about the future of Alberta youth, of Alberta young people. UCAN Youth Services is on the front lines working with, it feels like it's not a competition, but can I say the most challenged, the most marginalized, the most threatened young people in the Metro Edmonton region, including through their relentless outreach work. They're working directly with the 50 young people aged 12 to 17 that are spending the most time in contact with Edmonton police, right? We're talking in the back of cop cars. We're talking about incarcerated. We're talking about young kids in many circumstances that have not made any choices in life. This has been their lot in life. They've been recruited by gangs. They're being human trafficked. They're experiencing homelessness or food insecurity. But it's heartbreaking stuff. But UCAN Youth Services relentless outreach workers are stopping at nothing within reason to ensure that they can stop those trends, that they can put these young kids into a better situation with the supports that they need, reducing incidents of disruption and crime, increasing their attendance in school or day programs, trying to help out their families in situations, many cases, that are causing harm. It's heartbreaking stuff, but it's such important work, and you can support it by considering a donation to UCAN Youth Services today. It's a tax-deductible donation, and I can tell you that the return on your investment is considerable. You can check out our YouTube channel or our podcast archive for a recent feature episode highlighting the work that's done by the team at UCAN, and you can make a donation today by checking out ucan.ca. Now, every week, the first episode of every week, our friends at Solar by Kuby give us a chance to, in a way, step outside the news cycle. That's what we typically do, and focus on a positive, on a silver lining, maybe a random act of kindness, someone who paid it forward. It's a positive reflection presented by our friends at Kuby Renewable Energy. And John, I do have one for you locked and loaded, but I'm going to forget about it. I want to freewheel right now. I'm going to go off script right now based on how I'm feeling, based on the fact that our live chat conversation has not stopped talking about teachers, regardless of us talking about Mark Carney and Donald Trump and Trump coins and the Toronto Blue Jays and the Edmonton Oilers. All you're talking about is teachers. And that's because 51,000 of them are currently on strike right now. I bet many of them are in tears. Thousands of you, our fellow Albertans, are showing up outside the McDougall Centre in Calgary, the Alberta Legislature in Edmonton. We saw you in Grand Prairie. We saw you in Lethbridge and other communities. By the way, send us your photos. Send us your firsthand testimonials to talk@ryanjespersen.com. But today, this is a message of encouragement from the son of a teacher, from the grandson of a school board administrator, and of course from a graduate of teachers who saw the positives in me. Many times when I was such a smartass that I probably didn't observe their objective approach. I probably didn't deserve the faith that they put in me. I didn't deserve the attention that they gave me and the encouragement that they provided. But just like you, I can think of the teachers by name that had a massive influence in my life. I'm thinking of my grade 8 social studies teacher right now, Bruce Robertson, who invested in me in a big way, personally and otherwise, and allowed me the time that I needed to realize how important my education was and my investment in that education was. We would not be who we are without our teachers who face great adversity. They don't bitch and moan every single day. They don't talk about the challenges that they encounter. When's the last time you saw a teacher posting on their social media about how they had to dig into their own pockets to pay for the extra school supplies that the kid, the underfunded kid maybe in their class wasn't able to arrive with, to save that child from the embarrassment or maybe the attention from their fellow classmates that they don't have all the pencil crayons or the binders or the duotangs or maybe even the backpack, maybe that regular lunch that they needed. Teachers have stepped up for decades to make sure that Alberta's kids, and now Alberta's adults that once were kids in those classrooms, have had the resources and the support, the love and the investment that we need. And so regardless of how you feel about government budgets or fiscal prudence, regardless of how you feel about collective bargaining or rates of inflation or what the minutia of this collectively bargained agreement or what this contract should look like, can we all agree that none of us would be where we are without our teachers? And so today, on day one of a strike that I know is going to be incredibly difficult for so many of you, we thank you. We recognize what you have given many, many times without recognition, without praise, and we stand with you, hoping for a quick resolution to this situation that has Alberta in the spotlight on the national stage. So here's to the teachers. That's my off-the-cuff positive reflection this Monday, proudly presented by our friends at Solar by Kuby. You can get a free solar quote today by visiting kuby.ca. That's kuby.ca. Let you know what's coming up on the show over the next couple of days. October 7th, we're going to be joined remotely by Calgary's Mayor, Jyoti Gondek. That'll be the final of 5 one-on-one interviews with the leading mayoral candidates down in my hometown of Calgary, leading into our October 10th episode that's coming up this Friday with the top 5 polling candidates as Calgary looks to make a big choice. What will City Hall look like October 21st down in Cowtown? We'll hear from them, but first, Jyoti Gondek, the 5th of 5 mayoral candidates. The back half of tomorrow's episode will be with Edmonton's former mayor, the always straight-shooting Stephen Mandel. And as mentioned, on Wednesday, October 8th, Alberta's Education Minister Dimitrios Nikolaitis will join us right out of the gates, 8:30 Mountain Time or later on demand. Thanks for being a friend of Real Talk. Thanks for sending us your thoughts to talk@ryanjespersen.com. And be kind to one another. We'll chat again soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego.